submixes. So we've got our auxiliary sends and returns all set up, our verb 1 and verb 2. So now let's set up some submixes. So first of all, submixes are going to be utilizing our buses. Now, we haven't really had a separate video about buses, but buses are kind of incorporated in everything we do as far as signal flow and routing here when we're mixing in a digital audio workstation. So the buses are really all the things we've been doing here with going to verb 1 and verb 2, and we've had our different inputs and outputs. Whenever it says bus right here, we go to 11 and 12, 13 and 14. And so that's kind of the way that we're going to take our signal and send it somewhere else in our digital realm. Without going out of the computer, we're just going within the computer to different spots. So what a submix is, a submix, instead of just taking everything right now, is going analog 1 and 2. A submix is taking and routing a handful of tracks through an auxiliary before it goes to the mix. So what we're going to do is we're going to first set up a submix for our drums. And there's a couple reasons why we might want to do this, and we'll see in just a second. So we're going to select our drums, and in Pro Tools you get a nice little feature that if you have anything selected, I don't know if you remember when I added the inserts, I held the Option key and added inserts across everything. If you have a selection made of tracks, if you hold Option and Shift instead of just Option, when you change something on one track, it will change it on all the tracks that are selected. So I'm going to change my output. Instead of analog 1 and 2, we're going to go to bus 9 and 10. And so, as you can see, it just changed my drum tracks. And we play, you can see that the drums are still playing there, but we're not hearing them because it's going to bus 9 and 10. And we have not taken this output of bus 9 and 10 and sent it to analog 1 and 2, so there's no way that we can hear it. So what we need to do is create an auxiliary insert. So there's our command right arrow for stereo, command down arrow for aux input. Create that. There's our aux input, and as the input, we're going to put bus 9 and 10. And we're going to do the same thing we did before with the reverb. We're going to solo save the track, and we'll call it drums submix. And now there's our drums, and notice we're going to talk about this in just a second. All our tracks adding together are actually making this submix go red, and so we're going to eventually want to be turning those down. But the nice thing about this is, watch what we can do. So we have control over the entire drum submix before it gets sent to everything else. So if we wanted to just turn our drums down a little bit, we could turn them down right here. Another benefit of this is that we can throw a plug-in on before we get to anything else. So let's just go a little extreme here. We'll use our one-band EQ. See the difference there? Take away all the low end and then bring it back. And so we can do that on the entire drum kit. Now there's some benefits and disadvantages to doing that, but the big thing that we can use it for is we could put some effect on there. We could put the whole drum set through a reverb or through a compressor or through a certain EQ process and use the submix for this. It also helps if we want to do some automation on the entire drum kit. But there's another option way to do that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So right now we're going to go ahead and set up a submix for the choir as well. So if we go ahead and shift click across there, hold Option Shift and change the output of this to be bus 11 and 12. Command Shift N, command down arrow, enter. Now we've got an aux that is our choir submix, and the input will be bus 11 and 12, and we'll solo save it, and there we go. Okay, so you see, it works the same way. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to go to our I/O setup, and 11 and 12, 9 and 10 is our drums sub, and 11 and 12 is our choir sub. And now everything is going to look a lot better there. So you can see, if you want to know where our choir's going, go into choir sub, and choir sub's right there, and it's labeled. And same thing with the drums. Now we could even go further and say, I want to color coordinate my drums, my drum submix. And the same thing with my choir submix. There we go. We can always find the right color by clicking over on one of these tracks that's already changed. So if we had that there, you can see that it's that box there, and we can make that the right color. So there we go. Now we can have access to the submixes for our drum tracks and our choir tracks, and we've set up some submixes for our session.